Hey there. I wanted to let you know a couple ways to support this podcast and the podcast network. If you go to Duckfeed.tv/tipjar, you can find the Amazon link for your region and buy your normal stuff on Amazon. I know we're coming up on a time when people think about holiday shopping, and boy, oh boy, we're on that Christmas creep. But doing it through that link doesn't cost you anything extra, and it helps us out an awful lot. The other thing is to go to patreon.com/duckfeed.tv and kick us a couple bucks a month. As of November 1st, we're going to be rolling out some new kind of reward structure kind of things, including things that benefit Bonfireside Chat listeners. So we think that you would enjoy that. That is patreon.com/duckfeed.tv.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And I'm Jeremy Greer.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a Appendix butterfly.
Oh, no.
Sugar, baby.
I'm so sorry. You've got appendix butterflies.
And
I
today
used to
we're
get
reading...
butterflies in my stomach, but now that I'm older, it's all appendix all the time.
I used to have that too, but I stopped eating fucking butterflies.
Yeah, that also helps.
Yeah. Today we're talking about your responses to Lothric Castle. And as you heard, Jeremy Greer has stuck around.
Yes, bucking the trend for this season. Kind of imposing himself on this. That's fine.
It's not like you guys said no. Do you need me, Cole? Yeah, sure, come on, okay. Yeah. I see how it is. We're just telling lies about Jeremy Greer. I see how this works. Tell lies about Duckfeed.tv.
Yeah, I'm just being a dick. But yeah, so we don't have any follow-up from the previous ones, but we do have responses. And the first one is Mr. Church saying fluck. No, fuck slashulons and stabulons.
That's this place is full of slashulons and stabulons.
Yep. Man, those great swords, those glowing great swords.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I have a much harder time with slashulons and stabulons than smashulons. I eventually understood smashulons. I'm at one with the smashulons.
Yeah. Well, the smashulons, they almost always, it feels attack overhead, as opposed to the slashulons, which they just have a much wider kind of sweep for their stuff. Yeah.
It's also their buff is not just a straight damage upgrade. It gives it those little interesting mines that they lay. Mm-hmm. That's actually, you know what? In retrospect, that is maybe one of my favorite enemies in this game.
Yeah.
I like those guys a lot. They're really interesting. That buff is really cool. Not just making something one shot you, but actually, creating these little hazards in the environment.
Yeah.
Those things are great. Go smashulons.
You have earned your name.
Yeah, you've earned it, baby. If I ever found a high school, it's going to be the Portland suburb smashulons. So as the soccer team,
it's just going to be a crazy blown out JPEG screenshot.
Yeah. Michael says, bereft of any potential context from Dark Souls 1 or 2, Lothric Castle felt like a hero legend I was stepping into late. A harrowing extended duel upwards through an abandoned royal library, being challenged by a band of evil adventurers. A violently roiling sky full of fires as I fought through a small army. And of course, slaying a duo of evil princes. This area makes me feel like it's trying to make me the hero in a story that has never been published. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think Michael did the same thing I did, which was assume that this area and the area that's around the Grand Archives were the same area. Yeah. Because I always forget that there's that whole Grand Archives bit in the middle, because you spend so much time doing castle stuff in the Grand Archives.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to cut that off. We've had questions about that too, about how we break it apart. But I think that it is part of the same upward thrust, right? We're going up there to grab Lothric by the scruff of his scrawny little neck. And bring him
by the scrote of his neck.
Yep, by his neck scrote.
Yep. .com. Yeah, it is. There is an epic feeling to this. Mm-hmm. again, it doesn't, we talked a lot in the last episode, like without that feeling of conclusion that I want, but there is, a sense of scale to it, largely brought by the sky.
Yeah.
As we said, the actual sense of danger.
Yeah. Nextskirt.com is available.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
My other high
That seems
school.
like a good use of $15 to hover.com.
Yep. We're not sponsored by them. Don't say that.
Yeah.
$15 to Jeremy's domain service.com. I'm going to quickly go register.
Yeah. Jeremy, do you want to hit us with Brian?
Sure. Brian says, for all the lingering questions, dangling plot threads, and unfinished ideas in Dark Souls 3, I think Pus of Man bothers me the most. An enemy introduced in the opening cutscene, codified in the Ludex boss fight, and made incredibly dangerous in the first level. It sure feels like the Pus of Man ended up a wet fart from a story perspective. In Lothric Castle, we meet the climax of the Pus of Man storyline, 2 humongous undead dragons, animated by the sludge. But they end up being nothing more than guards for treasure. I just can't justify in my mind why these enemies were built up so much when their significance seems negligible.
Yeah, they really do make you believe in those first couple of hours of play that this is going to be Dark Souls 3, The Secret of the Ooze.
Yep.
Yeah, I was kept expecting other things to turn into Pus of Man kind of throughout the game, but again, there's almost none of it during the entire middle section.
It's exclusively in Aldrich or in Lothric.
A Lothric thing,
yeah. And like we talked about that to its benefit, right? Like, okay, these guys are seated. That is a poor choice of words on my part, but I'm going to go with it. They're seated, and they're not. They don't just kind of like pop out willy nilly. But for those first 3 hours, they make you think that they will.
Yeah.
And then when that goes away and you come back to it, it does ring hollow. Again, another poor choice of words.
Yeah, because here there's none of those those things where it's like, oh, any enemy could be this thing. Mm-hmm. The two, you run into 4 of them here, 2 of them down in the moat, which are just going to automatically proc as soon as you get anywhere near them. And then the dragons, which are this entirely different thing that we never associated with them.
Right.
So you don't have that kind of fun, like any enemy I could turn into could be a pain pinata. Good choice of words.
Pinata. Pinata.
Yeah, pinata. That actually sounds too much like a word to me. Like pinata sounds like something that would actually translate to something I don't know what it is.
It sounds like some kind of like weird martial art.
Yeah. Oh, like Gymkata.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's the 2 times. That's one of the 2 times a year that I think about Gymkata. The other time is I will occasionally look at a set of stairs and think, I wonder if somebody could go down that on their hands.
Yeah, I wonder if somebody could Gymkata this shit.
And then if an old Gymkataist would have to do a handstand on one of those little carts that goes up and down a wall for like old people.
I'm into it.
Yep. That shit drives them up the fucking wall. Yeah.
Yes. Cool.
Yep. So Zane writes, and this is a numbered list. Number 1, I loved the run up to the castle proper. After fighting the dancer and feeling overconfident, Dark Souls once again reminds you that you can always die to a few well-placed minions. Number 2, I'm not very perceptive, so I was halfway to the pre-dragon bonfire before I noticed these red things in the distance. I hadn't picked up on these undead tree things earlier in the game, so imagine my surprise when I see in the background this gigantic floating circulatory system. I was awestruck. Had Dark Souls taken a Bloodborne and 180'd my understanding of the game's lore? Was the final area of the game going to be a fantastic voyage through Prince Lothric's body cavities?
Wow.
And then I look around, dozens of these things menacingly drifting toward me. It was one of the best moments of the series for me, even if I was way off the mark.
Yeah. Yeah, these things actually converged on you?
No.
Or something like that. Like they haven't really done flying enemies since Demon Souls.
Right.
To any there's like little hovering enemies, a couple of leap attack things in Bloodborne, but like flying enemies are something they've more or less gotten rid of. Mm-hmm. But like that would actually be pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm fine with what they do too. It's just an atmospheric background thing. Mm-hmm. But like I like the idea of going through this and thinking maybe they're going to actually come at you.
Yeah. Yeah. So lest anybody who listened to the main episode think that we're like down in this, like aesthetically, the Pilgrim Butterflies are 110% a win. It's one of the most striking images that I've seen in the series. I just wish there was more to it.
There's actually everything. The only thing that even names them or refers to them is the Dragon Slayer soul.
Yes.
Like there's no other item description that mentions them.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that we have to work on from those guys comes from the fact that they're called pilgrim butterflies. And then just environmental clues.
Yeah. And I've seen some like
point.
screenshot kind of diary showing like, oh, there's like a racked body here. And I love kind of the comparison, like, oh, this is like a circulatory system. Like that's kind of cool. But like, yeah, it's mostly like that is the only textual evidence that we have about them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dylan says, to me, Lothric Castle has more bad design decisions than any other required area. I still don't know if I'm going through it correctly, since I either have to tank boatloads of fire damage or spend too much time shooting the dragon full of arrows to cross the courtyard. Then what would be an okay boss fight is muddied by those annoying dragon skeleton things that have killed me with an off-screen shot more often than I care to admit. And finally, why is the Warriors of Sunlight Covenant locked behind the halfway point in the game when you get the talisman so early on? Rog! I don't know if I pronounced that.
That's a good point, because I kept looking for a place to drop off my sunlight medals to get whatever Covenant rewards I was going to get, and like just gave up eventually. I was like, okay, well, at some point I will find it.
It really makes me wonder if this was always meant, again, like we never know anything about development or anything, but it kind of plays into us talking about the weapons, finding weapon classes in the castle. Like, was this always meant to be unlocked when it was, because technically you can get, it's more than halfway. He says it calls it the halfway point of the game. It's like the 80% mark of the game, or can be the 30% mark if you kill the dancer early. And was that ever meant to be more viable and less of like a challenge run thing? I don't know. It is really kind of confusing.
Yeah.
It sounds like Dylan might not have found the moat entrance to the over the bridge.
Yeah.
Which I could see that being pretty frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy at least somebody had the same problems with the boss fight that I did with the zaps.
Yeah.
Zapulons.
The Zapulons.
Jeremy.
I'll take over Cameron's, who says, Lothric Castle, both visually and mechanically, feels pretty damn cool. Pilgrim butterflies make for an astounding skyline, and rounding a corner and looking up to see the dark side sun for the first time was an honestly jaw-dropping moment for me. Even better was reaching the dragon barracks for the first time. I was home alone and so had turned up the volume on both my TV and the podcast I was listening to while playing. With no one else around, my cat had decided to be affectionate and sit on my lap. All of a sudden, boom, crash. Down came two awesome-looking dragons, and up goes my cat, clawing her way to the top of my head as she freaked out at the sudden noise. It's certainly a moment I won't forget. Oh, also, fuck those Lothric knights with the great swords. Bloody hell.
Agreed on the last. I just feel bad for your cat.
I feel bad for your head. Like, that couldn't have felt good when she started clawing up there.
That could have been worse. Like, have you ever had, like, a cat, like, claw your dick real good?
No.
Guys. Okay. Like, I've had a cat on my lap.
I've had it done real bad.
Yes.
Does that count?
It's so right. I've had a cat, like, get startled and jump off of my lap and kind of rake my lap.
Okay.
In a way that drew blood on my front puppet, like in a way that I'm not like super into. So
it didn't awaken something.
No, no, it wasn't like a drop of blood that hit my boxers and then like animated my boxers or anything. And luckily, like I didn't lose my dick either. It wasn't like a catch fever kind of thing.
Right.
But I have had that happen where like, so if a cat is on my lap, I will usually position it so it's not, if it does need to leave in a hurry, and that can sometimes happen because of dragons, but also can just happen because like a cat will remember what it has to do and decide to like run to another room for no reason. But I will position their claws like purely over my meaty thighs if something's going to get scratched.
Yep.
So
as someone who's just recently drew blood from his front puppet, like that doesn't sound very fun at all. Like remove these caps from your laps. That's all I'm saying. Get these cats out of your lap.
It's so good. It's like I need shin guards, but for my thighs.
You need to wear a cup for kitty bonding time.
Yeah, kitty cup. Like a pitch product.
Just plastic pan front inserts, like plates of armor, like baseball shin guards. Yeah, exactly. Louis writes, has anyone had the two dragons on the bridge aggro correctly? On my first playthrough, only the right one ever breathed fire. On my second, they were both completely inert. I think I might have experienced them the correct way one time. On the one hand, I've never been a fan of the dragon on the bridge gimmick, but on the other, I'd hate to think that I'm not experiencing content correctly due to a glitch or oversight. I think we spent a lot of time in the episode talking about how that is both a suboptimal fight and arrangement, just like from a pure design point, but also technically, like, who fucking knows what makes them go to sleep?
I don't know. I think Jeremy might have been right when it's like pulling the lever to open the door.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, that rings true, but I don't totally know.
Yeah.
Be a illusory wall question, maybe, if it is consistent.
At illusory wall on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It just it doesn't matter if it feels broken technically. It's broken technically.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It's something's not going on, and even if it is, it does it when the door opens. Why?
Yep.
Like why are these illusory dragon
any more sense at all?
Dragon pussy men ever like letting their dragon form go to sleep? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's infuriating. John says, I find Lothric Castle pretty uninteresting place. It has little hidey holes that have a couple of secrets, but then again, every level does. It doesn't really set itself apart from any castle level I've seen in the Dark Souls series, and I would say Smoldering Lake has more flavor to it. The wyverns at the entrance of the castle proper do intrigue me, though. You only find them on the high wall and Archdragon Peak. Is it the Nameless King? Is the Nameless King pro Lothric because Guinevere is there, or are they the vanguard of Irithel's forces? Are they trying to break the king's sister out and away from Lothric and Irithel? Why are they infected with the pus of man? Has the Nameless King deliberately been infected, or has he deliberately infected the lands of Lothric? The Dragon Knight armor is also mysterious due to the chaos trees that float by and shoot you during the combat to protect the armor. Why are they bringing this armor to life? Clearly, they are helping Lothric as a barrier to the invading army. So is this the reason for Lothric's army destroying the demons as a way to get the Chaos Flame to combat the Profane Flame found in Irithel? So many questions.
The Chaos Flame is dead.
The Chaos Flame is dead. Yeah. It's explicit. And that could be a scholar style like remap could say like said to be dead or something like that. But the
or
demons are all dead.
It is dead from here. It has been moved away, and this is a place that is dying in its absence, or something like that.
Like it's so they went out of their way to make the Chaos Flame die. Like you just see mountains and mountains of corpses. It's like it is so underlined 1,000 times. Yeah. I don't think these are the same dragons as in Archdragon Peak. I think these are illusions or something like that. Yeah. I think the Archdragon Peak dragons are the closest thing we have to real dragons in the game.
Yeah.
Like in Dark Souls 1, you have like the Everlasting Dragon, which looks pretty significantly different from like all the undead dragons you find. And I kind of feel like that difference is here as well. Like Archdragon is like Everlasting Dragon territory, whereas Archdragon Peak has the Everlasting Dragons, whereas here these are like weird medieval science dragons that somebody invented when they were trying to make a real doll.
Right, which is not the same thing.
Don't think that's going to get away. You're not going to get away with that.
I forgot about because this turning a pus of man into a dragon also is apparently unrelated to the half dragons we found in Irithel Dungeon too.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking A.
Oh yeah, there's so many fucking dragons around, dude.
There's so many different goddamn reasons and ways to turn people into dragons in this game. Izaki, no.
Too many dragons.
Like, I like dragons more than average, more than the next guy.
More
Jesus
than me,
Christ.
certainly.
Like more than Kole, more than most. Like a poll of the first 100 people in the street, more than most. But like, god damn it. So yeah, it is. Those things do add more questions and provide no answers. No.
Yeah.
J-Dog.
So is it me on Connor?
Jay the real dog Greer. Let's do it.
Connor says, I've always taken advantage of the obtuse mode of storytelling in these games as a backdrop to craft my own little stories, owing largely to my inability to decipher the canonical narrative. More fun than actually doing this, however, was creeping back through the game to try and lace together support for my little ideas. Dark Souls 3 has been great for giving me little sets to enact my fantasies upon, but much less great at providing through lines with the rest of the areas, creatures, characters, and so on. Anything I find that sparks my interest seems to bob solitarily amidst all the floatism of ideas with only the vaguest traces of a form to connect them. The sinuous, nightmarish angel beings littering the horizon with their dark sides branded upon the sky itself evokes all the best imagery from the series, but to where exactly does that lead? I'm looking forward to your episode to hopefully shed some light for me. Sorry, Connor.
So sorry.
Is gnawing at me in the same way it did for DS2. I don't need it spelled out for me, but I do need some occasional reassurances that I'm not playing hide and seek with someone who stopped playing but didn't bother to tell me.
What a good metaphor that is.
I really like that. Playing hide and seek with Miyazaki only. He stopped playing Demon Souls was like my favorite thing to think about now.
Playing hide and seek with somebody who stopped playing without telling me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, God, I'm gonna say that like once a month for the rest of my life. Like, that is such a good. that feels like that's the kind of like thing. I've never heard that expression before, but it just feels like it applies to like so much.
Yeah,
that's really good, Connor. That just made me, him referring to the pilgrim butterflies as angels. Just also, I didn't consider that, and I wonder.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen that as a through line, but like, I mean, they're supposed to be called something else, but like,
they're called butterflies. And I'm so ready for like, I like the moonlight crystal butterfly things from Dark Souls 1. I'm down for it. Like, I wanted to see them as butterflies.
Yeah. Ugh. Even though I don't want a Seath connection with them, really. Like, I don't want them to be, because then that connects them to Seath directly, and like,
we have enough of
Seath
that.
already. We have too much of that.
Seath are greedy. You got yours.
Yeah, like this many different little Seath like Logan crystal magic connections to things.
Yeah,
is already too much for me. So I don't know, but that's interesting.
That's less of my affection for Seath in that particular thing, but I like the idea of a gigantic butterfly.
Yeah, me too. Butterflies are super creepy.
Yep.
The way that like when they land on something and then flap their wings slowly like they're breathing.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of like the creepiest, coolest things that can happen.
Yep. So. There's a bunch of monarch butterflies that live in a bush behind my house, and they're kind of just always there being creepy. I mean, they were up until a month ago, but
when you took care of them,
right? I mean, until they like migrated to Mexico, but they'll be they won't be back.
They migrated to your stomach.
Finally, here we have Ragavan, who says, "This is a great area with plenty of callbacks, and it literally rises to a climax. The dragons guarding bridges, the winged knights, and the warriors of Sunlight Covenant. Finally, were all great beats to play through." But what I strongly remember from this zone was the boss battle. One of the first things that you see when you enter this zone is the giant pilgrim butterflies in the sky, and you're left with questions. You traverse the zone with them always soaring in the sky and eventually get to the boss. The first time I got there, I was extremely excited because I could make out the wings of the butterfly in the boss arena, and got mentally geared to fight one of these. I changed to magic resist gear, walked in, and got destroyed by Axstein. Love you, Dark Souls. Never change. Okay, everybody, from now on, finish out your messages with what you would write in Dark Souls 3's yearbook. Maybe don't do that,
year,
but
Dark
maybe
Souls.
do. Hags, have a great summer. Yeah.
I didn't gear up for it or anything like that, but I thought maybe I was going to fight one of those things too. Mm-hmm. The rest of the stuff like didn't land for me as well as it did for Ragavan, but which is fine.
Yep.
I mean, I don't have very much to add to it, like to that the response. It is I wonder what fighting one of those things would actually be like too, that kind of caster fight, because I'm in the minority apparently who likes the Moonlight Butterfly fight in Dark Souls 1. Most people kind of hate that fight.
Yeah, I mean, we're in good company. Jeremy, how about you?
Where are you at on
awesome.
that?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when people hate it, it's because they hate it because it's easy, and I don't hate boss fights when they're easy. Like, that's never going to be something that makes me hate something. So,
I will give one caveat to that, which would be that fighting the Moonlight Butterflies in the Crystal Caves later is like one of the most awful things in the world, and I've never do it. Like, it's just bad. But the actual boss fight is 100% my jam.
Yeah, and there's no reason to do it either.
Yep.
Like, it's like you just get nothing for like fighting the Crystal Cave ones. That was a missed opportunity, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty seriously. Thanks everybody for writing in. If you have anything to say about the Grand Archives or Archdragon Peak, please send them as separate messages at duckfeed.tv/contact.
Yeah. We're going to have more details about the way the rest of the season looks as the details about the DLC come out. I mean, obviously we're going to be playing this by the time this episode comes out. Like between episode and extrasode, that's when the DLC happens. I imagine, Gary, you and I are going to get through it pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And we'll know more about that and where it should fall in relation to the series. So much is up in the air, especially as relates to the second, more meaty DLC.
Yeah. We still have at least one more. We have several of those kind of top and bottom special episodes I did that are going to trickle out. And then we have at least one more other special episode, similar to our PvP episode, coming out at some point between now and the end of our Dark Souls 3 coverage. And we have quite a few Souls-likes to cover. So the show's not going anywhere, and we have plans. So we are at least solid through like another year or so, feels like.
Do you want to know who's going to be on the next episode for the Grand Archives?
We don't know.
Okay,
it is a little bit. We've got our. I've got a couple of people I'm going to check in with. We have our guest for the Archdragon Peak episode, but not the Grand Archives episode yet.
Right.
So we're not ready to announce it. Like we have.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. I figured you had people that you were talking to.
I'll tell you off air.
Okay.
I try not to announce people if they're not confirmed, because then I don't want them to ever have to hear like somebody on Twitter be like, "Oh, we thought you were supposed to do this."
Yeah, that's shitty.
Yeah. It's just a general rule. If people are listening to this, never do that on our account. Like, people have asked, people ask us often, like, when are you going to get ENB on? And like, I've probably sent him like probably 5 different attempts throughout the course of the show to get on. I just think it's not in the cards, which is fine. Like, it's totally, nobody has a responsibility to do this. Nobody owes us anything. But I've had people kind of, in response to that, kind of seek him out. And it's cool if you want him to do it and you just kind of say it, but don't position it as if you're like championing us.
Yeah. Like,
I don't want anybody to be, we don't need you to do that. We appreciate the sentiment.
Yes, we do. But nobody should ever feel compelled on our behalf or otherwise to do this. Yeah,
we're just grateful people do it at all.
Yep.
Thanks for sticking with us, Jeremy. Do you want to quickly maybe give the 20-minute version of where people can find you rather than the 45-minute version?
I'll be back later.
Always trying to censor me. I mean, come on. You took away 30 whole minutes from the main episode. You can find me on Twitter at JG Greer. I do several podcasts, one with Gary Butterfield called Days of Future Cast, where we talk about X-Men and X-Men related media. It's very funny, and it's new to the Duckfeed network, so you should definitely check that out. I do Don't Give Up Skeleton, which is a podcast all about interviewing people and how they found the Soul series. If you like Dark Souls and if you like podcast, you should listen to that podcast. Both Gary and Cole's episodes are out, so if you like those guys and that's a good starting point. Otherwise, there's probably 30 or so episodes that you can kind of pick and choose from. And also do Dark Insight, which is a gaming podcast every other week. So, and if you like accents, boy, U.S. Southern accent like myself, and then a guy from London and a guy from New Zealand. It is a hot mess. So enjoy.
And I do like accents. Thanks, Jeremy, for sticking around. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you want to support the show, the best way to do so. He's done.
Okay, cool.
I can keep going. I've got more stuff.
I'm back. Sorry, I went and got a drink.
It's okay. If you want to support the show, the best way to do so is to go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. We really appreciate it. You can find details about what that looks like if you actually go to that website.
Yep.
And I think that's probably about it.
That support is important. If we didn't say it before, Duckfeed.tv/contact if you have those things to say.
I think that's probably good.
Cool.
Really do appreciate it.
So
thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Minimal... Wait, I've got an Etsy page. Hold on.
Okay.
Gotta get the link.
Minimal deleted scenes, but Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
How are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm good.
Good.
If I sound weird, I'm in my back room because I've had issues with my Wi-Fi, so I wanted to be on a LAN connection. So if I sound echoey, that's why I'm like sitting on the floor on top of pillows.
Yeah.
That's quite
I feel
right.
like a college student that can't afford furniture.
You sound like you're reclining on pillows.
Yeah.
Well,
you sound recumbent.
That's my middle name. I don't know if you guys know that. Jeremy Recumbent Greer.
You're a corb. You're kind of, hop on recumbent bike.
Totally me.
Corpse. Yeah.
You guys are really loud.
Yeah, and I'm probably not going to watch X-Men until after PRG next weekend. But then I will be good to.
I knew I was going to watch it like 4 times, so I just went ahead and did one.
Yeah. I almost bought it yesterday. I was at a Goodwill and they had the collection on DVD, and I was like, "This is $5. It'll probably be less than renting all of these movies, but the collection is only the first 2."
So they just about the third.
Yeah, well, no, I think they collected it early. Like the second one came out, and then they put out the collection,
the David Hayter collection.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to get the third one, and it looked like there was a picture of Wolverine. I was like, oh, this probably has the Wolverine, which of course we'll end up doing that at some point as well.
Really? Do we have to?
Yeah, I want to do the the Wolverine with Gambit. I've never seen the second one of those.
It's not good. Hey, have you ever wanted to see a Wolverine movie where for most of it he doesn't have any powers?
Okay, great.
Yeah. Is that the one where he has
it's like Wolverine Bourne. It's like Jason Bourne except for Wolverine. Like it's just I don't like that movie.
No,
I'm way into it. I've never seen it. I bet you it's bad, but I would love to talk about it. So.
This ginger ale has caffeine in it. I've never heard of such a thing.
Interesting.
I know.
That seems like something you probably shouldn't be drinking at 8 o'clock at night.
I know, right? But it's the ginger ale I bought, and goddamn it, I want some ginger ale. So,
the ginger ale you'll go home with.
Yeah.
Dance with the one you brought.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys want to do this?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.